morning, everybody.
Good morning, Karen. And to all of our viewers, welcome to AARP's Best Kept Secrets.
Yes, welcome. We have a great person to share with you today and a great program of AARP's. But before that, how's it going, Jen?
It's good. As we talk about today's work around livable communities and the Challenge Grant, it's nice to see the world reopening in local communities where we can start re-engaging and getting work done and just have a fresh new start post-pandemic.
Very, very true. And we actually just did an event last weekend in Detroit that was supposed to happen in 2020. So yes. So today's topic, like you said, is livable communities and specifically the AARP Challenge Grant. And I'm really excited to share with people what this is. And I've been the lead for this since it started. I guess it's been 5 years now. Seems like yesterday. But I want to bring on Evie Owens, who is I think her title is Communication Project Manager or something like that for Livable Communities and the AARP Challenge. So welcome, Evie.
Hi, ladies. Good morning.
Hi, Evie.
How are you?
Great. Yes, enjoying the good spring weather.
Yeah, well, it's spring gray here in Michigan.
Well, at least we can get out now, and like y'all talked about, everything's opening, so we can get out and get back to normal a little bit.
Yes. And we did have a really beautiful weekend.
Nice.
So gotta count your blessings for those days here in Michigan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And as people get out more and more, this is where the Community Challenge Grant really can impact and improve a local community. And when we talk about livable communities, we're talking about making them more livable for people of all ages, not just older adults, not just AARP members, but really the whole community is impacted by beautifying, improving, and making impactful things happen in a local community through the Livable Communities work and the AARP Challenge Grant.
That's right. What's good for the 8-year-old is also good for the 80-year-old.
Right.
Absolutely. So Evie, tell us a little bit about AARP's Livable Communities work.
So the Livable Communities initiative helps communities become great places to live for people of all ages and all abilities. So it's all about making communities better through several different areas. And those areas you will see, of course, translate into the Community Challenge. Housing, transportation, public spaces, civic engagement, several of those. And you'll see those later on as we talk about the Community Challenge in our categories. There's 8 different domains of livability, and the Livable Communities work focuses on each of those. What we really try to do, our main focus, is to be a resource for mayors, local leaders, local advocates, so that they can make their communities better. We can't do it. We are not in every community, but we want to empower those who are in that community, no matter what size it is, no matter where it is, to be better for everyone in the community.
Right. And all this happens at the community level.
Exactly. It's all about the community level.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's so important to emphasize, because AARP is seen so often as a large nationwide organization, but we really do our work here at the local level across, the communities in Michigan, but across every state in the country.
That's right. We're all about scaling it down and being in that granular, that local level.
So since we're talking about the Community Challenge Grant, why don't you tell us what kind of outcomes is AARP looking for in giving these grants?
One of the main things that the Community Challenge is really based on is being a quick action grant program. So we really want to see tangible, quick improvements. A lot of times when you look at grant programs, they're over a year-long project or maybe even a multi-year project, 3 years or something like that. Where the Community Challenge really sets itself apart is that we are very, very focused on that quick action that's going to lead to a tangible result and most likely long-term change. So a lot of our outcomes are really based on that. We have a very, very quick action timeline. The projects themselves only have about 4 or 5 months to complete. And the outcomes that can bring is amazing. We've seen everything from overcoming policy barriers, leading to policy changes. And of course, one of the best ones to nonprofit ears is leading to additional funding, whether they're trying to finish out a project or get one project made permanent if it was a temporary installation. But we see at least 45% of grantees have gotten more funding. We also have seen 100% of our grantees have better overall awareness of their cause, their initiative, their work themselves. And about 80% of grantees have been able to overcome some type of barrier, whether that was financial or policy. They've led to, like I said earlier, overcoming policy barriers lead to better policy. It's all about that really tangible work.
And one thing may lead to another.
Yeah, exactly. We love to be the first stepping stone, the what gets the ball rolling in a community.
Right.
And since the program was launched, the Community Challenge Grant in 2017, the numbers are impressive as far as the impact that AARP has been able to offer to local communities. Just looking at the numbers, we've provided over 800 grants totaling $9.3 million. So
That's
Edie,
right.
can you talk more about what those grants have funded?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So since 2017, we've had 5 full grant cycles since 2017. We are currently in our 6th year. Like you said, we've given over 800 grants, a little over $9 million. Each year it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit better every year. And we do, like I mentioned earlier, we do kind of shift our categories around pressing needs, what's going on right now, current needs, pressing issues. Of course, in 2020, we had to add in funding for coronavirus recovery and response. In 2021, that was also a category. We always have our standard public places, transportation, housing, civic engagement. This year, we added a new category to help communities who are using their AARP funds or IIJA funds, any type of federal program. There's several new federal programs that have come out. And we know that communities are really thinking hard about how to use those dollars. So we created a category to help communities with, small scale ideas that they can then test out, talk to the community members about, hey, what do you think about this project? Let's see if this project works. And then that way they'll have a better understanding of how to use those dollars when they get them. Of course, we also have an other category to kind of be a catch-all for things that we haven't thought about yet, or we did put coronavirus recovery in that category this year just because it's thankfully becoming, less of a pressing need. And of course, we've started to bolster our support for diversity, equity, and inclusion projects in the community. That has become a really one of the biggest funding categories, and especially application categories, is that DEI category. Obviously, we found a pressing need there in communities. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot what the second part of your question was.
Well, just what some of the projects are that have been funded.
Yeah. So, every year it's so fun to look into these projects and really, it's one of my favorite parts of the program is seeing all of the different bright ideas that everybody has in the community. It's so inspiring to see these projects. Yesterday, we were looking at a project where they were using llamas to install benches on a trail that isn't accessible by vehicles or anything. They couldn't get the materials to the place where they needed to install these benches. And they used llamas to get the resources there, which was amazing. And so cool. And there's a wonderful picture of a group of volunteers who installed the benches now sitting, on the trail on this beautiful bench overlooking a lake. Previously, there wouldn't have been any resources to sit or rest along this trail. So lots of great projects like that. Of course, public places is our number one category. We fund a majority of projects there. Transportation projects are also really popular. That can include anything from bike lanes to crosswalks, improved crosswalks, pedestrian walking, things like that. We do a lot of really good demonstration projects in that category too. So, some communities might know that they need a better way for cyclists to get around. They want to have a bike lane, but they don't know how the community will react. They don't know if it'll be good in a certain location versus another location. So you can do a pop-up temporary bike lane. There's a lot of really great ideas we've seen where people can use hay bales and different types of delineators for a temporary bike lane. And then that way community leaders know, okay, this worked, this didn't. And then they can make an educated decision when they go to make it permanent. Also lots of great housing projects, civic engagement projects. There's been several really great, just promising ideas come out of this every year. It's so fun to watch them.
Yeah, one of my favorites that won in Michigan last year actually was in the bike lane thing. The League of Michigan Bicyclists won, and they created a lending library of all of the materials you need to do a pop-up, so temporary bike lane, so that communities could then, take that out, check it out, use it in their community for however long, a week or two, and then bring it back, and the next community could use it. I just thought that was really ingenious.
Exactly. And the gift that keeps giving, because then, it keeps spreading from community to community. And just like we said, they figure out the best ways to do it in their community, and then they can then make it permanent and make that really, really good, tangible change in a community, maybe next year, maybe the year after. But yeah, we love seeing the effects of these grants several years even after. We always make sure to come back to our previous grantees. We have a follow-up survey that we do with them so that we're capturing not just that first year, but also these effects that happen later, long-term change.
So can you tell us, what types of organizations or who is eligible for these?
So that's a great question. So nonprofits and municipalities are our two biggest ones. We do consider other organizations on a case-by-case basis, but it's a very small percentage. But this is really geared to nonprofits, municipalities who are trying to create change in their community. And of course, there's no community too small. There's no community too big, and there's no community too small. We have a wide range of community sizes that we've given these grants to. Everything from, big cities like Boston, Detroit, all the way down to rural cities with a population of 500. So there's no guidelines there. There's nothing specific that we're looking for. But we do grant to all community sizes, and yeah.
And you grant in every state.
Absolutely. Yes. Great question. All 50 states every year, plus territories, DC, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands all have at least one project. But most states get many more projects every year.
And so it's growing.
Do the states that provide more applications, do they get more projects funded, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily. It's all about the strength of the projects, strength of the application, and then of course the pressing needs in the community at the time. So each state has different needs. What needs there are in Michigan might not be the same in Florida, of course, as we're talking about the weather, and it just depends on the pressing needs in that state at the time.
Do you have any favorite projects that you want to share with, specific ones, like examples that you want to share with us?
Well, of course, I love the project with the llamas. Has just been such a reason to smile here recently. There's been a few right here in my own city that have been so cool to see happen. Back in 2020, when the pandemic was really shutting everything down, one of the community centers here built a community garden and 2 pavilions outside so that people could come and get a little plot in the community garden, and also put in benches so that they could sit. Picnics. There were many, many days that children that normally would be in school-age kids could go and sit and have, a picnic together outside where it was safe, and still be able to see each other. It was used so heavily. As soon as they opened it, it was used. I love the outdoor projects. Anything with benches, tables and things like that. We've seen so many interesting ideas that people have come up with for how to build a picnic table, or, different ways that materials are used, recycling materials are used. There's a project that the community collected bottle caps to make into benches, and they've made 10 benches with the bottle caps now, or mosaic benches with the story of the history of the town, things like that. I love seeing those.
Edie, can you explain the process for the challenge grant, the timeline, how people could get involved in this when they find out?
Yeah, absolutely. So we open up a new grant cycle usually in January every year. Like I said, this is very quick action. So we open it up in January, and then by December, we're closing out that grant cycle. So in January, applications open. We keep it open for about 8 weeks. And then the judging round starts. And it's about 2 months from when applications close until applicants find out their status, whether they've been selected or not selected. And in that time, the states are judging, the national panel is judging. We're dealing with paperwork, different things like that. Then we will let we'll let applicants know their status sometime here, actually coming up in the next couple of weeks, so about mid-May. We will let applicants know their status for this year. And then in late June, we will announce it publicly. We'll have, during that time from June and July, we're dealing with MOUs, paperwork, checks are getting written, all that good stuff. And then projects can start once we announce in June. We did give grantees, we were actually really excited to be able to do this. We did give grantees a little bit of extra time during the summer months this year. Of course, being in Michigan, y'all know, there's just some times of year where you just cannot put a concrete pole in the ground. They're not going to be able to dig in the ground. So we try to give our northern states a little bit more time during the warmer months. So from June until December, that's when projects are going to be happening, installing, building, whatever needs to be done. And then December 31st is when after action reports are due. And then the next grant cycle starts in January. Starts all over again.
And who does the ultimate decision-making on this? You've got judges that are in the national office, in local state offices. We have volunteers in our Michigan office that are helping with the judging process. So who ultimately makes the decision, and how could you get involved if you wanted to be a part of the selection committee?
So it's a great question. Of course, we do have a national panel that's made up of our Livable Communities director and a few other directors who work in livable communities at the national level. But the state offices are really who drive the train, I would say. We listen. The state offices are who know what the needs are in the community, what you're working on, what's going on at the state level, and then at the community level. And of course, it's so good to hear volunteers getting involved. A lot of state offices this year had volunteer panels. So I always encourage the first stop for anybody who's interested in the community challenge. I always encourage the first stop to be your state office. Get in touch with you guys. Y'all know what's going on, and and what volunteers you need. All of that. Always the first stop should be the state office.
Yeah, and the volunteers, we every year we have panels. This year we had 117 applications, so
awesome.
That was a lot of applications to
review. Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah, we had about 3,200 applications total this year nationwide, which is fantastic. We don't necessarily have a goal for applications. We're always just trying to make sure that that applications are stronger. So, make sure that they understand what they're applying for, what we're looking for. And every year the applications just get better and better, which is a good thing, but it's also one of those double-edged swords, because then it's really hard to make selections because there's so many good projects, so many good worthy projects, and we wish we could fund everything. It would be so nice if we could just say, all right, let's fund all of these great ideas.
Yeah.
And if an organization, just to piggyback on that, if an organization applies for it and they're not accepted, should they reapply again?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you have been selected before, you can apply again. There's what happened last year does not affect what happens this year in the application process and in the judging process. You should absolutely apply again. Talk to your state office for feedback. Maybe there's, something that you can tweak in the project. Of course, grant amount is one of the big things, because of course we are a smaller grant program. So we can't fund $500,000 projects, things like that. But yeah, absolutely apply again, keep applying until you get it.
So tell us you mentioned the amounts. Tell us what the average is.
So our average over the past couple of years has been around $13,000. So it's really small. I mean, when you're talking about a lot of nationwide grants or $1 million grants or several $100,000, our average grant is only about $13,000. We've given grants as small as $500, and we've given a grant as big as $50,000. But that average is much more the norm. Which is why it's so fun to see what people can do, even though it's small dollars amounts. It's so inspiring to see what communities can come up with and the bright ideas that they can come up with for, something that's a relatively small amount of dollars. But if you come from nonprofit world, every little bit counts and goes a long way.
Absolutely. And I always tell, when we're sharing information out with our community partners and other people when the application period opens, I always tell people, if you have an idea that you want to talk about, call me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. And I always share with them, if they're looking at $60,000, I share with them that's not likely to get funded.
Right. Yeah, it's not a hard no. There's not a definitive cutoff, but it's not as likely. That's great advice. Right. Absolutely.
So, all right, Jen, you have any other questions for Evie?
So Evie, what comes next then? So this stage of the process has now closed, and now we wait to find out when this year's winners are announced. How do people find out about those winners, and then how do they find out about applying for next year?
So yes, we are in the middle of judging. We are almost done with judging right now, which means we will be notifying applicants here in the next couple of weeks. I think it's around mid-May. And then the public announcement will be in June, and projects will start then. If you haven't applied yet, or if you're interested in applying and learning more about the Community Challenge, it's really easy. You just go to aarp.org/community challenge. You'll find everything about past grant recipients. We have a lot of great videos about past projects, a lot of great stories, impact stories about really the long-term impact that some of our first original grant classes have led to. There's a 2017 grantee in there that just has an incredible story about what they turned a brownfield, completely empty field into a thriving community garden and park. You can learn a lot there. And that's where we'll announce when the next wave of applications is open. And of course, anything else that you want to know about our livable work, you can also find there too, or at aarp.org/livable. A lot of great information there.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, Evie. We appreciate the good information and really look forward to finding out who gets the grants this year. And again, every state. So even in Michigan, we're excited to find out who gets the award.
It's the best day of the year for us. It's so fun. I love it. It's
Like
one of the
Christmas.
happiest days. It is.
In June.
It's like Christmas. And I love emailing all the grantees who've gotten picked. It's so fun. One of the best perks of the job.
Excellent. Well, thank you and have a great day.
Y'all too.